all. So today is Wednesday and general topic, and we are going to learn about Shat Darshan, six philosophies from India. We all know how much we love knowledge, Vidya. That's why they say the love and search for knowledge are as intrinsic to human nature as the drives for self-preservation and social interaction. Right? We like to preserve ourselves. Right now, we know there's a COVID and we like to preserve. We eat better, we sleep better, we drink better, we protect ourselves, self preservation. But social interaction is very important too. That's why we just even, if we cannot interact physically, we like to interact on Zoom or FaceTime. So those two things are very important to all the human beings. But then search for love and knowledge is equally important. And next Wednesday, we are going to talk about love because that is the Wednesday before Valentine's Day. Okay, so love. People essentially want to know the basic questions of life: why, who, where, when, how. Even the staunchest materialist, in the quiet moments of awe, has these pressing questions. To answer these questions, there have evolved two great philosophies, which are designated usually by geographical divisions of East and West. And that's why you have heard the Eastern approach and the Western approach, or Western philosophy, Eastern philosophy. The modern Western approach addresses the problem from an objective, theoretical, and pluralistic standpoint. So in order to answer all those questions, this is the approach. And the ancient Eastern approach is more subjective, more experiential, holistic. Or you can say that West looks outward to external data and the East turns inward to internal experience. So one method is based primarily on dialectics and discursive deductive speculation. And the other is based on introspection and direct intuitive insight. These days we see whole world has become small. There is a constant people move also, exchange of data happens also. So that's why these two philosophies are becoming less divergent. But still we are going to talk about the Eastern philosophy today. Because there was a liberty to think freely in the East, to search for the truth personally, independently, and experientially. That is a traditional Indian culture. And it will be not wrong to say that Westerns live freely and think in structured ways. while the Easterns think freely and live in a structured way. So now let's look at it. What is Indian philosophy or the Eastern philosophy? The Sanskrit word for philosophy is darshan, which means direct vision. So that means that relies on the direct vision on truth and pure buddhi, which is called pure reasoning. Another thing you got to remember that Indian mind or the philosophy is not divorced from practical life. It's very practical also. Indian philosophy or all these darshans, they address all the natural and spiritual needs of a person. From knowledge of the supreme consciousness in the Brahma Vidya, and also the science of medicine, the health, the relationships, the nature. That's why it's called holistic. Why is philosophy needed? Why do we need it? We need it because a human being is not only a physical being, he is a thinking being also. Thinking being. Most of the time, people suffer within in their own mental worlds. That's what suffering is. But this suffering can be overcome by making thoughts pure and positive. And that's what philosophy gives us. Ordinarily, people stay confused. They don't try to find the answers to those hows and whys. And this confusion is due to the lack of a philosophy in life. So philosophy gives you a vision. That's why it's called a darshan. Life without a concrete philosophy is like a castle built on the sand. It's always ready to crumble with every tiny ripple of water. Without understanding the omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotent of eternal life, a person is bound to feel insecure, living in a world of fear. So that's why I would like to say that philosophy is the body of knowledge that frees us from fear and from the primitive instinct of self-preservation. So that's why we need the philosophy to be able to see clearly, to be able to live fearlessly. It leads a person from the unreal to the real. Philosophy does that. From the darkness to the light, from the mortality to immortality. Philosophy is beyond the grasp of a religion, the dogmas, the rituals. It is universal. So these Eastern saints, they did not say that Westerns cannot adopt this philosophy, people who live in the West. So we live in the West these days. We live a modern life. We use the science also, but at the same time, we can adhere to the Eastern philosophy. That's why we can use the best of the both, external as well as internal. So in the Eastern philosophy, the external world is not ignored. but it is considered to be a means to higher attainment. Indian philosophy quenches the thirst of desires, thoughts, emotions, memories, and anxieties. How? Through its skillful techniques. Because we are all born with all those emotions and the desires, but philosophy quenches it. Philosophy teaches one how to train the mind to think logically and how to reform our inner attitudes towards the external world. What kind of a relationship we need to have with this external world? Philosophy teaches us. Eastern philosophy provides for a complete understanding of all levels of personality. All levels of personality means there's physical personality, which is a gross personality at the body level, at the pranic level, at the mental level, at the intellectual level, and at the spiritual level. This philosophy teaches us that we are spiritual beings. So this philosophy is a very essential foundation. Materialism without a sound philosophy is a terrible curse which is afflicting the modern society. For lack of philosophy, modern man has become selfish. Hindu religious thought can be divided into two major systems: heterodox and orthodox. Heterodox system is called Nastik. Nastik means a system which rejects the authority of the Vedas. Nastik. This system includes Charvak philosophy, Jainism, and Buddhism. They reject the authority of the Vedas. In fact, Charvak system denies the existence of the individual self, Atma. There's no notion of salvation, moksha for the Atma in that system. This system of philosophy never gained popularity among Hindus, the Charvak. And the orthodox system is called Astik. Astik, which accepts the authority of the Vedas. And this orthodox system or the Astik system includes these 6 schools of philosophy, which we are going to discuss today. Or you can call it as 6 schools of Hindu religious philosophy. Let me give you the names first and then a little definition or little elaboration on that. Each philosophy, if I want to discuss it, it can take months. See, just like we are talking about the yogic philosophy, it's going to take the whole year. Every 4 to 6 weeks, we spend time on it. The same way the other philosophies also. But today I'm going to give you just a brief overview of these 6 philosophies. And each philosophy has a founder, a rishi name connected with it. First one is called Uttar Mimamsa. And if you don't know how to spell it, we'll have all these names and the names of the founders also on the website for you. Okay, so Uttar Mimamsa. Another name for this is Vedanta. And the founding father of this is Rishi Vyasa. Then comes the Purav Mimamsa. See, Purv means earlier. Uttar means latter. And Rishi Jaimini is the founder of Purav Mimamsa. Third is called Yoga. Rishi Patanjali is the founder. Sankhya, Rishi Kapil. Number 5 is Nyaya philosophy or Nyaya Darshan. See, in Sanskrit, they are all called Darshan. That's why it's a Yoga Darshan, Sankhya Darshan, and Nyaya Darshan by Rishi Gautam. And this Gautam is not Buddha. Okay, don't confuse yourself with that name. It's a Gautam, Rishi Gautam. And number 6 is Visheshika, that is Rishi Kanad. So let's look at briefly one by one. Uttar Mimamsa or Vedanta is the philosophy of the Upanishads. Vedanta means the end of the Vedas. And that refers to the teachings of the Upanishads. Or the concluding sections of the 4 Vedas. That's a Vedanta. Vedanta is also a popular term used to denote collectively the teachings of the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and Bhagavad Gita also, and many other writings which elaborate upon the teachings of the Upanishads. What is the subject of Uttar Mimamsa? Knowledge of Brahma. That is the subject matter. And its scriptural source is Gyan Kand, philosophical part of the Vedas. There are several varieties of Vedantic systems. And when we one day discuss in detail, I will show you the different branches also. But all these branches, they maintain that Brahma is the highest reality. 3 popular schools under this is Advaita, Vishisht Advaita, and Dvaita. Okay, so they all fall under the Vedanta. So sage Vyas. The second darshan is Purav Mimamsa by sage Jaimini. This is a religion of ritualism. And again, it is directly based on the Vedas. The system believes in the efficacy of the mantras, and that's why it emphasizes the Vedic rites, rituals, as a means for liberation of the Atma from the bondage of this material existence, which is called Maya. One thing is, all these 6 systems, they believe in the liberation, mukti. The scriptural basis of Purav Mimamsa is the Karma Kand, the ritualistic part of the Vedas, Karma Kand. According to the Mimamsa Sutra, and again, all of these are in the Sutra form. That is the style of writing. See, just like a Yoga Darshan is a Sutra form. All these darshans are in a Sutra form. So according to the Mimamsa Sutra, Dharam is that which is indicated by the Vedic rites. and rituals as conducive to the highest good. There have been two foremost philosophers of this school. If you go deeper into this darshan, Prabhakar and Kumaral Bhatt, you might have heard their names. Third is yoga, Rishi Patanjali. And we all know that there are mental and physical exercises recommended as a spiritual discipline under this philosophy for liberation of the Atma from worldly bondage. Yoga. Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raj Yoga, all of those paths to yoga come under this. Fourth is Sankhya, Sage Kapil. So this system founded by Sage Kapil advocates an evolutionary view of the universe based upon continuity of life from the lowest to the highest level of existence. So Rishi Kapil dissected it for us. According to Sankhya philosophy, there are two ultimate realities which exist independently in the universe. One is called Purush, and the second one is called Prakriti. Purush and Prakriti. Purush is pure consciousness, but inactive. And Prakriti is unlimited cosmic energy, devoid of consciousness. So Purush is inactive, and the Prakriti is devoid of consciousness. The contact between the Purush and the Prakriti gives rise to the world of things and beings. It's like a wedding between these two. Only then there's a manifested world. In Sankhya philosophy, Prakriti is said to be made up of three subtle elements known as three gunas. These are Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And these three elements enter in different proportions into the material composition of all things and beings in the world. That's how each is different in nature and characteristics because of the different proportion of these three. For example, an individual is truthful and wise if Sattva predominates. He is active and energetic if Rajas predominates, and dull and lazy if Tamas predominates. Sankhya philosophy says the cause of the soul's misery and suffering in the world is its mistaken identification with the body, mind, intellect, and ego. More we identify ourselves with the Prakriti, more the suffering. And the dissolution of this identification is necessary for liberation. That's what Sankhya philosophy says. So true knowledge of the self is the means for salvation. And how can we attain true salvation, true knowledge? It can be attained from proper discrimination between the self and the non-self. This is Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy and the yogic philosophy, they go hand in hand, like two sides of the same coin. So non-self is comprised of the material world, including the body, mind, and intellect. This we got to always remember. Fifth philosophy is the Nyaya philosophy. Nyaya means a theory of inference. Inference. And this school was founded by sage Gautam. So this is a system of logic, then a system of religious practices. So logic here is practiced for the purpose of attaining liberation. So this school or this darshan is primarily interested in logical analysis of the world and the use of the inferences and a reason as a means to acquire true knowledge. In fact, this Nyaya philosophy enjoys considerable respect among Western scholars. Why? Because it really illustrates the subtleties and the intricacies of the logic. So Nyaya really means logic. And the sixth one is Visheshika by Rishi Kanad. This is a study of ultimate particulars. This school is also called Atomic School of Hindu Religion. And according to this philosophy, salvation results from the knowledge gained by cognition of 6 categories: substance, quality, action, class concept, species, and inherence. So both of these, Nyaya and Visheshika, let me repeat these 6 categories: substance, quality, action, class concept, species, and inherence. So we'll talk in detail. If you are interested, we can spend 1 hour at least to further elaborate on that. But today, just a little definition of these. So these Nyaya and Visheshika, again, they are twin systems. Just like a Yoga and Sankhya, so Nyaya and Visheshika. So these systems acknowledge the existence of God as the supreme soul, who is omnipotent, omniscient, guiding, and controlling the universe. They do believe in that. That's why this is Astik, not Nastik. So individual souls are believed to be infinite in number, separate from the supreme soul. See, in the Vedantic system, it's only one. There are not many. Over here, sure, there are many souls. They're separate from a supreme. And all these souls, they are experiencing the limitations of the worldly life. And they are governed by the law of karma. So the aim of both of these systems, Nyaya and Visheshika, is the liberation of the individual soul from the worldly bondage by means of true knowledge of the ultimate reality. The most basic philosophical questions that all 6 systems of Indian philosophy attempt to answer are these. All 6 of them, their own ways, they are trying to answer these questions. Number 1, who am I? From where have I come? Why have I come? What is my relationship with the manifold universe and other beings? This is question number 1. Let me repeat it again. Who am I? From where have I come? Why have I come? What is my relationship with the manifold universe and other human beings? So all 6 philosophies, they try to answer this question their own way. Question number 2. What is the essential nature of my being? And what is the essential nature of the manifested world and its cause? What is the essential nature of my being? Being means the Atma. And what is the essential nature of the manifested world and its cause? Question number 3. What is the relationship of the center of consciousness and the objects of the world? Number 4. What is the nature of the forms and names of the objects of the world? How do they serve the essential nature of people? So what is the nature of the forms and names of the objects of the world? How do they serve an essential nature of a human being or a human being's universal consciousness? Number 5, what are the guidelines for action as long as we live in the physical body? Do we live after death? So these philosophies, they talk about that also. And number 6 is, what is the truth? How do we arrive at rational conclusions on questions of truth? So you can see that external world is not ignored in these philosophies. External world is considered to be a means to higher attainment. So that means the external world is the means, not the goal, and we should not ignore it. So these philosophies, they quench the thirst of desires, thoughts, emotions. It really answers the questions. But in all these 6 philosophies, the Vedas is the paramount importance. Vedas. So that is the ocean of knowledge. And from the ocean of knowledge, these different rishis, they took out something and tried to answer these questions. That's what these philosophies are. Vedas constitute the most ancient scripture known to human beings. In fact, there was only one. Veda is only one. It was only divided by Rishi Vyas also. It was divided, but actually it was only one Veda for the comprehension of a human being or a human mind. And Sanskrit is the language of the Veda, we all know. And we all know that it's the ancient and the richest of all the languages of the world. Vedas have 4 sections. And that's why they are called the Rig, Yajur, Sam, and Atharva. So you can see that those are 4 sections of one Veda. And all of these Vedic literature is divided into 4 stages, which are called Sanhita, Brahman, Aryanak, and Upanishad. So all the Vedas are divided in these 4: Sanhita, Brahman, Aryanak, and Upanishad. So you are more familiar with the term Upanishad. But that is the end of the Veda, is called the Upanishad. So each of the four Vedas has these four stages. These are called the four stages actually of development. The Sanhita portion of the Vedic literature is composed of all the various Vedic mantras. That is the Sanhita. The Brahman literature takes the first step in interpreting or giving commentary on the meaning of the mantras. That is Brahman. So whatever the mantras, they were in the Sanhita, in the Brahman, there's a commentary on it. So it gives a ritualistic interpretation of the Vedic mantras with instructions for their use in the rituals. Then comes the Aryanyak. In the Aryanyak methods of training, because these are like to develop yourself. What are we developing? We are developing the mind. Mind which is gravitated towards the physical world, we are moving it upward towards the higher. So in the Aryanyak's methods of training the mind for higher attainment are described. These teachings are meant to be practiced in solitude. That's why it's called Aryanyak. Aranya means a forest. Aryanyaks establish a link between householders and their renunciates. So for a while, a person will go out into the woods, into the seclusion, and try to meditate on this. And the Upanishads, those are the fourth and the last stage of Vedic literature, represent the culmination of the Vedic approach. And there are 108 Upanishads, prominent ones. And the Upanishads are the latter part of the Vedas. And the Vedantic darshan mainly is about the Upanishads. Upanishads are the greatest source of Indian philosophical thought. The different systems of Indian philosophy, all these six Shat Darshan, they came from the Vedic literature. Whether it's a yoga or Sankhya or Nyaya or Vaisheshika, all of them from the Vedic literature at various times. And development was according to the prevailing needs of the society. Whatever the society needed at that time, predominantly what people needed. So from that ocean of knowledge, something was taken out and given it to the students or the people so that they can use that knowledge. But again, the goal is the same, to reach to the highest, moksha. So the systems were first codified into the sutra literature by rishis. And these rishis, they directly experienced the truth. Whether it was a Rishi Patanjali or Rishi Kanad or Rishi Vyas or Jamini, all those rishis, they experienced the truth. Then they taught this to the acharyas. And those acharyas, they derived authority from the rishis. So it was directly oral tradition. It was not written. Then they were explained in bhashyas, which are called the commentaries. And lastly, there were sub-commentaries which are called tikas. So if you have ever heard these names, that's what this is all about. So Sutra, the rishis experienced the truth, then they gave it to the acharyas, then there were bhashya written, commentaries written on that, like a further elaboration, so that ordinary person can understand it too. Because this Upanishadic language or the Vedic language is almost sometimes seems like that rishis, they're talking in codes, code language. So that's why there are commentaries and the sub commentaries to really to be able to understand this. So almost 11:15. Next week we are going to, there's a Valentine special, we're going to have a program over here, and anybody who wants to talk about it, if they have something to sing or say, or if they have written something on it, but I'll talk for about half an hour or so. And then, but the Wednesday after that, I am going to give you, we're going to go back to this topic again. I have written over here common characteristics of Indian philosophies. And I have about 15 uh, steps on that, or 15 different characteristics which are common in all these 6 philosophies. Because that way you can understand that these philosophies, they are not fighting with each other. It's not that one rishi is saying I'm better than the other rishi. All he is saying, I see it this way, I have experienced it this way, and I can help the general society this way. And the other rishi is saying the same way. The way he experienced it, according to his mind, whether it was illogical or whether it was just can let go it very easily. So that's why I want to just go through these 15 same characteristics in these 6 darshan. See, these days the problem is that people just have this notion, no, my way is the only way. My way is good for me. Your way is good for you. And that's okay. And that's what I learned from these rishis. Choose a philosophy, stand firmly on that foundation, practice and grow. Instead of wasting time, that my guru is better, my philosophy is better, my deity is better. None of these rishis did that. And that's where they could really rise to that level of godhood. And they say that if you do that, you will rise to that level too. It is for everybody. There's no competition. There are not just a certain amount of seats up there. Everybody is going that way. Choice is ours. How fast we're going to go, how soon we're going to become one with that absolute. Okay. Yes, Jyoti.
Sujata has a question.
Yes, Sujata.
Um, Namaste, Harshi. I wanted to know which part of the Vedas covers subjects like mathematics and astronomy and medicine and things like that.
See, mainly it's in the Atharva Veda. Okay, because see, it was one Veda, as I said earlier, it was divided. See,
Okay.
Atharva Veda is the one which really talks about these subjects.
Okay.
Okay.
And I guess my question is that how does it connect the study of? I mean, these are all studies of Prakriti, basically, right? I mean, astronomy. Where does it? So I mean, it uses these disciplines to connect to Brahm, or what is the?
Okay, what these systems, they help us deal with our worldly afflictions.
Okay.
That's what really happens. To answer the questions, you remember I told you the 6 questions?
Yes.
This nature, these beings, these things, what is my relationship, karmas. So these questions are answered.
Gotcha.
Okay, so when we have these answers, when we have the clarity, then we are more comfortable, we are less fearful, we are more clear, and then we can move upward. So that's how these darshans they help us.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. One follow up one follow up question.
Sure, no problem.
What you call the bhashyas? You said after the bhashyas there's sub commentaries and they are called
Tikas, tika,
tika.
Tika. I'm sure you have read that word before.
I
Tika.
have, but and typically it means criticism.
No, it's not a criticism, it's a
Yeah,
sub commentary.
a
You
sub
know,
commentary.
these are like those rishis, there was no criticism. They just wanted to understand it for themselves. Okay?
Gotcha. Yeah, because I mean, in common parlance, it's used as
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
criticism.
No, no.
Yeah,
To
right.
me, I think it's a sub commentary because sometimes we have to dilute it further. Use today's examples to understand this, what this
Yeah.
life is all
I
about.
think that's a nice way of putting it. I mean, even criticism, I mean, it's just one person's perspective on a thought
Yeah. See,
process.
criticism has a very negative connotation.
It
In
does.
criticism, you are trying to put other down. In commentary and sub-commentary or way the bhashi and tikas are written, if you look at the original ones, and because they're all in Sanskrit, so sometimes very hard to really grasp if you don't know the language, they are trying to understand it from their point of view. That's all,
Gotcha.
or the level the students were at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, like even when we talked about the Dvait and Advait and Vishisht Dvait, you will see that it's not that those rishis, they didn't know that. They knew, but they tried to understand, they tried to explain to the students because students were at that level.
Right.
It's almost like a PhD person, a teacher, trying to teach a preschooler.
Yes, string theory to a high
Will
school.
dilute it down
Right.
to the basic understanding of the student. But when the same teacher is talking to the co-workers, will talk differently,
Yes.
right? So that's what it is. So no criticism, no. There was never. I think at least we should understand that, right?
Right. No, no, I'm glad. I'm glad we
Yeah,
clarified.
yeah. No, good question, Sujata. Good. Yes, Jyoti.
Manju Malhotra.
Yes, Manju.
Namaste, Hershey.
Yes.
For the yogic philosophy, you said three parts of that. Could you kindly give me the names? Vibhakar or something?
Huh?
Yogic, Yog Darshan. For Yog Darshan,
Uh-huh.
the parts of that, you said there were three sections of that, or Vibhakar or something. I
No,
couldn't get the
yoga
names.
is just a Gyan Yoga, Karam Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, and Raj Yoga. So, which you are all familiar with.
I mean, two schools of Yog Darshan or something.
No, two schools. No, Yoga Darshan doesn't have the schools. You must be
No, so
before yoga. I must
the
mention
yogic
that
philosophy.
no. I think you must be confusing with that Purav Mimamsa. There are
Okay.
two foremost philosophers of that, which
Okay.
are called Prabhakar
Achha, right.
and
Okay.
Kumaral Bhatt.
How do you spell that?
Kumarila,
Okay.
Kumaral Bhatt. Because if you study some philosophy, I'm sure Sujata is familiar with this name. So those are, it's just like a philosophers, the foremost
Okay. Okay.
philosophers
Okay.
of the Purav Mimamsa.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. But Yog is Rishi Patanjali, and then
Okay.
um, those paths to yoga, to the union.
Right.
Raj
Okay.
Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karam Yoga,
Yes. Yeah.
all those, right? Which you
Thank
guys
you.
are very much familiar
Yeah.
with. Okay,
Yes. Thank you.
good,
Thank you.
man. Anybody else? No question?
Hersh, this is Raj.
Yes,
I
Raj.
looked up meaning of tika. So it is saying a commentary.
Yeah, sub-commentary, the
Yeah.
real translation is a tika is a sub-commentary. Because otherwise, what is the difference between a bhashya and a tika? Bhashya is a earlier commentary. Tika is further somebody is trying to explain it. So sub-commentary commentary is tika, okay? So when you become like you never know, one of you might like to study deeper into these philosophies. So that's why I point it out as a teacher.
Yeah, at one place it says a commentary on another commentary.
Yeah, that's a sub-commentary.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. I think Pramila has a question. Jyoti, that's what you're telling me?
Yeah, Pramila has one and then Nishta.
Nishtha, okay. All right, sure.
Go ahead, Pramila.
Archie,
Yes, Pramila.
you said 4 stages. The third stage, I didn't get the description of it. I don't know how to spell that word. The one before Upanishad.
Aranyak, right?
Aranyak, yes.
How do you
Aranyak.
spell that?
Aryanka. Aranyak.
And what is the description of that? I didn't.
Okay, Aranyak is when you are training your mind for higher attainment, whatever you have learned, you practice it in a solitude. Okay, you just go into the Aranya means the forest, the woods. People used to go in the old times into the woods and then practice. Okay. So so you are still a householder, but still you take some time out and renounce. So slowly you renounce. That's why Aranyak is almost like a Vanprasthashram. After the age of 50.
Okay.
Yet, not yet, then you don't have to. But if you're 50 and above, this is what we need to do.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Just practice. Learn to know who you are.
Nishta.
Yes.
Thank you.
Between commentaries and sub-commentaries, remember when I was writing the appendix to the thing? So when I wrote whatever research I was doing and my own interpretation, I got an objection from a proofreader that you're not an authority to talk about it. You can only quote from, the Bhagavad Gita says this or Upanishad say this. You're no authority to write a sub-commentary or a commentary. So what if I want to write in my own words, whatever I have studied in Patanjali or Gita, and just write a commentary in my own words? Why will it not be accepted? I'm a nobody. What level has one to be to write a commentary?
To me, I think these days, everything has become so commercialized. That's why there are these kinds of rules. But what I am doing, I'm just writing it. Whatever I think, what I experience when I write it.
But you are an authority because you are acharya and you are.
I don't tell anybody. I just write it. Just whatever comes from your heart, I would say just write. That's how these rishis wrote.
That's what the point I'm making is when do you have the right to write the way you have interpreted it from your own experience?
To me, write it down. Just have your own memoir. Write it down. Doesn't matter whether somebody will read it or not. Just write it.
I don't think there's any legal validity to what.
Yeah, this I think
So basically,
it's publishing this.
If you cite somebody else, you have to say. But if you're citing yourself, your own opinion, I don't think you have to.
Yeah. To me, I think it doesn't matter. Just write it. I would suggest as a teacher, write it down in your own memoirs, and later on, if it gets published, that's fine.
In the preface, you can say that these teachings are primarily from whatever scripture you want to say. Other than that, you don't have to say every time.
The legality of all of it these days, because I have never printed anything. But to me, I think We all should write it down. Even during meditation, what you experience, write it down for your own benefit. It's good to do that. But I know there are a lot of legal issues these days with the publishers and the printers, definitely. Yes. Yes, Jyoti.
Nishta? Nishta?
Gone? Okay. Maybe she'll come back. So meanwhile, we can.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to drive and I thought I had unmuted. Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. Vijana, I wanted to ask you, having grown up in this country, it was very easy. I mean, and also having gone to convent schools in India, it was very easy to define Christianity, right? I mean, you can say that there were 10 commandments and basically that was it. So I have a two-part question. So one is, aapne kafi bataya about different ideologies. If you had to basically put it down to not even 10, but even three let's say commandments, let's use the Christianity term of commandments, what would those be? And secondly, I also have taken comparative religions in college, those kind of courses. And I find that there's so many similarities in many of these religions.
Yes.
I mean, how do we get there where we also embrace other religions and understand that all these similarities are there?
Yeah, no, there are definitely similarities. Maybe one day I will talk about the similarities and dissimilarities between the religions. But if you look at when we talk about the truth, it's one. All the religions or all the founders of those religions, according to the level of the students or the disciples, they are taking towards the same truth. Same truth. So if you want me to give you three, according to the Hindu religion, truthfulness, harmlessness, satya, ahimsa, and brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means control over your senses. These are the fundamentals of Hindu philosophy also, Hindu religion also. There are several, I can talk about it. I think in the past we have done like a list of 10 and list of 20 and all that, but these are the three fundamentals. And
thank you.
So, but all the religious founders, they are taking, they are just showing, they are only giving us like guidance. They are guides for the same truth. Brahm is only one. Truth is one. God is one. You have to always remember that. But it's good to belong to a certain sect. It's a sense of belongingness. As human beings, we need that. So, but that doesn't mean we should hate others. No, love everybody. Because if God is one, that means we all have come from God. Love everybody, but stick to your own path. Okay.
Rita has a question.
Yes, Rita.
Actually, Jyoti, just one follow-up, please. The other thing I just have been thinking, you mentioned so many men. Ek ke baad ek, this guy. Koi aurtein, where were the women? And where, I mean, can you do maybe, because you do so much research, can you do a session on the women who have influenced Hinduism also?
Yeah, definitely. Women have, but since it has been a mainly male-dominated society, women were always like a sporting personality to the guys. All these guys were married. They had the wives with them. See, in fact, Nishtha, I grew up in an ashram. Ashram main acharya was, or a guru is my father.
Mm-hmm.
My father says this ashram wouldn't be an ashram without my mother.
Mm-hmm.
Females, they have this kind of a feeling where they give and they don't want the name. They don't want any kind of attention towards them. That's what I have seen, whether I see Rishi Vashish's wife or Balmiki's wife. All those wives are females, because female nature is selflessness. It just comes to us very easily. Just be in the sportive role. So, but I will definitely, I see you trying, Mr. I will try to do some research. I will talk about so that we all get encouraged from the female side.
Thank you
For pointing it out.
Rita,
Yes.
Rita.
Harshi, Nishta jo puch rahi hai, I was just going to ask you a pretty similar question. Every time you hear about Gurukul, only boys went to Gurukul. Did the girls also go to Gurukul?
See, we have a history, written history. After India was conquered.
Okay.
So then females were being protected.
Okay.
And even before that, you know what happened to in the Ramayana when we see even Sita Mata or even Vedvati, or yesterday we read about Rambha.
Right.
Okay. Females by nature, we are gentler. We cannot physically, we are not that strong, or we were not before. These days we will do a lot of exercise and they do all that. So sure, they can be stronger. But in general, female are not.
Yeah.
So I wanted to protect them.
So they did not learn all these.
They learned it from their local schools, maybe not in the Gurukul.
Not in the Gurukul, okay. And one more question, जो आपने बताया विशेषिका का, you said 6 steps: substance, quality, action, and inference. So I missed 2 of those.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The Visheshika?
Visheshika के 6 थे ना उसमें atomic school.
Yeah, substance, quality, action, plus concept, species, and inference. And we're going to talk about it later on. There's a lot more than this. This is just a little a summary of, so that you know the names. Try to memorize the names. If somebody asks you, what are the, you talk about 6 darshans, Shat darshan, what are these? And who are the founders?
Thank you.
You should know this much, right?
So Rishi Gautam वही थे जो अहिल्या के husband थे?
Yeah.
इनकी पत्नी अहिल्या थी, right?
Yeah.
Thank
you got it.
Thank
you. Got them. Okay.
And
Okay.
Nishi. And then Asmita can sing after, I think they said.
Oh, Asmita wants to sing. Okay. All right. That's fine.
So Nishi.
Nishi.
Thank you, Hershji, for so much information. I'm just trying to make a little summary. Then I wanted to ask you if this is the right way. So if you today shared with us philosophies, 2 philosophies, which are Eastern and Western, and then you divided the Eastern philosophy into the heterodox and the orthodox.
Yeah.
And then the orthodox into 6 schools of philosophies.
Yes.
And then out of these came the 4 Vedas.
No, 4 Vedas, all these came from the 4 Vedas.
The 6 philosophies came from
6 philosophies, the information in all these 6 philosophies came from the Vedas.
Okay. And
so Vedas are the source for all of them. All 6 philosophies, source is Vedas.
The orthodox system is divided into the Vedanta, the Purva.
Yeah, they're all Vedas, Vedic philosophy also, and the yogic philosophy also, and the Sankhya also, and the Nyaya. All of this is from the Vedas.
The Vedas. Okay.
Yes, yes. The source is, that's why I always say that Vedas are the ocean of knowledge.
Okay. And then the Vedas have 4 sections.
Yeah, all the Vedas have 4 sections. That's right.
Each section has 4 methods of training.
Exactly. You got it. Very good. Excellent, Nishi. I think you are a professor in college, right?
I was.
Just one second. So that's why you like to learn like that. That's really good.
Helps remember. Thank
Yes,
you.
no, really, I am very fortunate to have students like you, actually.
You're so sweet.
Yes, no, all of you are, you come on time, you take notes, you try to understand, ask questions in a very, the way the questions should be asked. I really, yeah, I'm touched, put it this way.
We are,
Actually, I have a very quick question also.
Sure, Prem.
I know so much is dependent on Vedas, every philosophy, everything. Who wrote Vedas?
Okay, see, Vedas, those are they are called apurusha. That means nobody wrote it. They are the words of God. And these rishis in the samadhi, they heard that. That's why Vedas are called the Shruti. Shruti means heard.
Heard.
Shruti. So in their samadhi, when they were like at that level, higher level, they heard it. Then they penned it down. Penned
So
it.
how did they put it together, Hershji?
Put it together, it was just transmitted orally. And then later on, Ved Vyas is the one who put it together.
I see.
That's why Ved Vyas is called the compiler. He's not considered the author of Vedas, compiler of the Vedas.
Yeah.
But these are the words of God.
Okay.
Okay? So heard in Samadhi.
Thank you.
Nobody really took authorship on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why some of the Upanishads very hard to even know. Hard to know who really wrote it. You remember a few years ago, I taught you, we went through that Narad Bhakti Sutra. That Narad Bhakti Sutra, sure, it says Narad Bhakti Sutra, that doesn't mean Narad ji wrote it. We really, as of today, we don't know who's the author of that.
I see.
The same way, this next scripture which we are going to start next week, Avadhut Gita, nobody knows who wrote it. That's why I was telling Gurmil, write it. We don't need to have our name. Write it for the sake of writing. Hopefully one day, maybe 10 years from now or 100 years from now, somebody might pick it up and say, wow, and they get inspired. Write it. That's what I try to do. And that's what I like to encourage Urmil or anybody, any one of you, just write it down. Whatever comes to your mind. That is the best wealth you will be leaving for your kids and grandkids or great grandkids. Otherwise, we just keep on acquiring and saving and hoarding the worldly gems. No, collect these divine gems. That is the real wealth. Nobody will fight over that.
Thank you very much.
Stock markets and all that, the gold and the silver, people will fight over, or the land. This kind of a wealth they will share with each other, and they will share with anybody who is ready to listen to them.
Very nice. Very nice.
Right? My own Guruji, when he wrote all these books, Ramayans, I mean, I would bring over here in the suitcases, because back then 2 suitcases were allowed, I'll bring, and he said, just spread it, just give, don't even worry about it.
Very nice.
And you all know there's no copyright on those writings.
Beautiful.
Okay. So I know it's hard to do. I understand Urmil's problem, because in this country, this day and age, it's a little difficult. But still, I think some of this we can bring in our own life, right? To see, to feel the beauty, to feel the fulfillment, to feel the joy, which these rishis felt. See, when you look at it, even a picture, see, this is a picture of Rishi Valmiki. I mean, it's a drawn picture, but when we look at it, what do we really see? In the jungles, he is sitting with a feather pen writing. Just by looking at it, it just gives me the goosebumps. Right? Yes, Jyoti. Sorry, Jyoti. I just keep on talking. Sorry.
It's like I'm going. Sujata and
Jyoti,
then
you are
Raj.
getting the exercise, right?
Yeah, my hand's getting the exercise. Raj and Sujata. So let's have a question from Raj first. Sorry, Sujata.
Hello, Hershey. So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question on Uttar Mimamsa. You had mentioned that Gyan Kand is its source of knowledge.
Yes.
And then three kinds, Advaita, Vishisht Advaita,
Yeah.
Dvaita.
Advaita, Vishisht Advaita, and Dvaita.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. So Advaita is a non-dualism.
Non-duality?
Yeah, non-dualism.
Yes.
Dvaita is a dualism.
And Vishisht?
Vishisht is like a Vishesh. I'm going to talk about it. I think maybe one of these days I will further give you the details about these also.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, there is so much. I mean, I just like I said, it's a knowledge which is like a endless. I'm sure you have heard about Dvait, Advait, Achintya Bhed, Abhed, Shuddh Advait, Ishwarvad, Shaktivad. These are all different. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with those.
No,
So-
I'm not familiar, but we'll love to listen sometime.
Okay, all right. So it's not to confuse you. It's just to show you, hey, this side of life, a lot of people didn't even look at.
Yes.
That's why people say confused and fearful too. Knowledge of all this makes us fearless. Okay. Yes, Sujata.
Sujata.
Harshji, I just wanted an example of a heterodoxy. You said orthodox and
Yeah, heterodox is like a Charvak philosophy.
Okay.
Buddhism, Jainism.
Okay, that's what I thought. That Buddhism,
Yeah.
the more recent interpretations of Vedas.
No, they did not believe in Vedas at all.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, these three, they, it's like they rejected the authority of Vedas.
So what did they hang their hats on?
We'll have to just look into their philosophies to know. But they said no. Yeah, Vedic system they did not believe in. These days, what has happened is people, little bit of this and little bit of that. We are all practicing.
Right.
Okay. Nobody is practicing Buddhism also, just Buddhism alone.
Right. Yeah.
Yoga and Buddhism. Over here, what do? We are studying the Upanishads also and we follow yoga also. Right? It's the Vedanta and yoga together. And then we do the rituals also. So little bit of this, little bit of that. If we follow yoga alone, then we wouldn't be doing a puja path. So the same way in the Jainism, Hinduism, Buddhism, it has become like a now mixture, which in a way that is good. But it's good to know also origin of all this.
So the origin of Buddhism came from the Buddha?
Yes. Originism came, yes. Yeah.
And so that was what he...
yes,
that was what
because back then, the Vedic, the priests, I would say, they made these Vedic rituals so rigid. And he got turned off by that.
So in that sense, he probably rejected the Vedas. He may not have rejected, the Upanishads. And one doesn't know whether Buddha, because he was a prince.
And this is how the Buddhism
evolved.
Yeah. Okay. So we can only go from there. And then now, just like I said, we all have the freedom to pick and choose.
Right. Gotcha.
And just remember the ultimate goal. They don't talk about Buddhism, doesn't talk about Godhood. Charvak doesn't even talk about the Atma. They say the body is who we are. This is it. And a lot of people, don't they say that eat, drink, and marry? Whatever you see, that's what it is. Beyond this, who knows? So that's a Charvak philosophy.
But Harshji, what I understand that why Buddha never talked about God, because we are watching when we read Ashtavakra, how hard it is to explain even the experience in words. So it was not that he was saying eat and just worry about your body.
No, I'm talking about Charvak. No,
Okay.
that is a Charvak. That's not Buddha.
Okay.
No, Charvak philosophy is altogether different. But what I'm saying is that we are not trying to put anybody down, and we are not saying anybody is wrong. I'm just only giving you the knowledge of all these philosophies. That's all. Okay. So, but Charvak does say that. Okay. So I think Asmita is going to sing a bhajan for us today, Asmita.